We'll have none of that. Comes committee meeting, December 15th. In accordance with an act to implement provisions necessary to the health, welfare, and safety of the citizens of Maine in response to the COVID-19 pandemic health emergency as enacted to read Section 11 MSAD proceedings through remote access during declaration of a state of emergency to COVID-19 and for 30 days following the termination of that state of emergency. The Finance Committee meeting will be held through Google Meet. The meeting will be live streamed and available for viewing at www.msad11.org. We'll do our call to order. Pat, do we want to introduce board members or just proceed?
Sure. So Fuss.
Yay.
Nicole Medore.
Yay.
Alyssa Tracy.
Yay.
Patrick Saucier.
Yay.
John Umland.
Yay.
Jim Lothridge. Okay. Jim
Didn't hear from him. Unlike him to miss, he may have missed that we were having a meeting.
Yeah, maybe.
I'll check with him.
And then I'm Pat Hopkins, Superintendent of Schools. And then we also have here Andrea Dish.
The district's business manager.
And Gabe Dostey.
Gabe Dostey.
Yep, Gabe Dostey, Director of Operations.
And Terry McGuire.
Terry McGuire, Director of Technology.
That's everyone. Becky.
There. Am I back?
You're back.
Great. Okay. My computer froze, so I chose another network. Discussion of the 2022 district budget.
Okay.
Andrea, revenue projection?
Yeah, I actually have a little bit to update there first, and then I will ask Andrea to chime in. Just want to let the Finance Committee know that we are starting the budget process, the development process at the present time. The administrators are working with their staff to compile a budget for the 21-22 school year. Andrea very shortly will go through that timeline with you. But at a meeting that I attended within the last couple weeks, I had received some new information regarding state projections that I just wanted to share with you. At one time, the forecasters at the state were predicting the possibility of about a $450 million deficit in revenue, that there would be this significant shortfall that would impact all public entities, including school districts. The forecasters met probably about a month ago now, maybe 3 weeks or so ago, and their outlook is looking better. Right now, they're projecting a deficit of around $150 million, which is definitely better than the $400 million that they originally projected, keeping in mind that the year is not done with. We still have the holiday season to get through, and so we're not certain exactly what the revenue forecast will be, but it is looking better. In terms of MSAD11 and how this will impact our revenue, we need to keep in mind that in addition to the revenue shortfall, okay, where we may receive actually less money from the state, we also have a reduction in the number of students enrolled this year. We've seen an increase in our state valuation, and we are expecting a decrease in special ed because our expenditures decreased in Q4 of last year. So that will result in a decrease this year. So it's kind of like the perfect storm All the things that could go wrong are going to go wrong when it comes to our revenue projections for next year. So just want to make sure that we kind of lay the foundation with the Finance Committee and make sure that you are aware that all of those factors will come into play when the Department of Education really pulls together the estimated subsidy for our school district and other school districts for the 21-22 school year. Andrea, is there anything that you can add to that?
So in addition to the things that you mentioned, free and reduced lunch, our free and reduced lunch rates are down quite drastically. And the other thing that takes into account is our transportation expenses, like our special ed allocation in the ED 279. It's based on the prior year's transportation expenses. And as you know, from March to June, our buses weren't going round and round. So our expenses aren't traditionally what they would have been in a typical school year. So we're waiting to see how the state will address such things in the ED 279 and the funding formula, and if they'll make modifications or just how they'll address. So it will be interesting.
So with that, Andrea, would you walk the Finance Committee through the budget timeline?
Sure. So prior to the meeting, I emailed a copy of the draft budget timeline that has been provided to administrators and administrative assistants. So according to this, in November, December, we start identifying maintenance issues and issues with our facilities that we need to look at for the budget year ahead. December on the timeline it says when the budget year begins, but some of us have already started that process. December 15th, usually the December finance meeting, we discuss capital improvements. Some years that gets pushed off to January, depending upon time. It's really a function of time. So on January 15th, individual schools will need to have their budgets submitted to their building administrator. On January 31st, all of the school budgets will be submitted to me. On February 23rd, we will provide a status quo budget. And for those of you who've never seen a status quo budget, it's basically taking this year's budget, keeping everything the same with the exception of those things, for those things that were contractually obligated. So we update things like health insurance and collective bargaining agreements, those things, and anything that were contractually required. So it's not the budget that we present to the public in April. It gives us some sort of an idea of how things might come in. In February, the A team starts discussing what's called the requested budget as opposed to the status quo budget. The beginning of March, the Finance Committee gets its first glimpse of the status quo budget. In March, we have a lot of meetings between the Finance Committee and the administrative team going back and forth to try to finesse the budget. It's during this time that we actually get an update on what our health insurance will be. Preliminary health insurance is good because of COVID. A lot of the elective surgeries were postponed, so we're waiting to see right now what our fourth quarter as far as health insurance, and then we'll have a better idea of where that comes in. But in March, that is finally set. We have work sessions, as I mentioned, all during the month of March. In April, we start to finalize the budget. The board typically finalizes its budget around April 15th, and then we set a vote to prepare the warrants and post them for the towns. We have our district budget meeting, which is tentatively scheduled for June 1st. Between the time the budget is set and June 1st, we are publishing our annual budget newsletter. In addition to that, we're holding meetings with either constituents or teacher organizations or with the various town offices. And then on June 8th is the school budget referendum, which is the second part of our two budget process. As you know, last year, because of COVID, we didn't have a budget meeting. So it depends how things are in June, whether we'll follow the traditional process or whether we'll follow the process that we adopted last year. And that's pretty much it.
Is June 1st early for that meeting?
We've moved over the past few years, we've moved that meeting closer to the budget referendum. Usually it's the last week of May, so
Okay.
not really. I mean, I think for a while there was a couple of weeks between, but I think we discussed keeping it fresher rather than letting too much time go by. Statute allows, I believe, 30 days.
Mm-hmm.
That's a lot of time between the meeting and the vote.
People become forgetful in 30 days.
Yep.
Okay.
So,
Thank you for all of that.
and just to mention that this document is fluid, it changes, so it's a work in progress as we move along.
I look forward to that document every year.
Yeah, I bet.
I do, actually. Helps me know the business is about to start. So
Good.
that's good. 5-year capital improvement plan.
All right, I'm going to turn this over to Gabe. But before I do, I just want to make sure that Finance Committee members know that with the current workload, we have not yet had an opportunity, and we being Gabe, Andrea, and I have not yet had an opportunity to really sit down and walk through the information that Gabe is going to present to you today. So this is just a preliminary glance at what the projected capital improvement plan may be. It's probably on the high end, and we will need to go through and make some adjustments. But rather than waiting until January, thought it was really important for you to at least be able to see some of the ongoing projects that we've identified in past years. Just remind you that they're still out there waiting for us to consider. So Gabe, if you want to just give that overview, and I can present the plan so that members of the public can see it. Okay.
Perfect. Yeah, so as you can see on the spreadsheet, the column all the way over to the left, that's in a little bit lighter color, the blue color, that is this budget year's numbers. I kept those on there just so everybody could see what we have this year in there for numbers, instead of normally in the past we used to just take them away. And it's I feel it's nice to see what we're doing this year and where we're at this year, and you can kind of get a little bit better of a view on the projects that are ongoing that are in there. So of course, the first one is it's basically a combination of all the totals together. This year so far, I have not had a chance to walk through with many of the administrators. We've been trying to do quite a few of the projects that we've had going now for COVID-19, and we're pretty much pressed to get those done. We are a little bit over where we normally like to be, but it is, again, just a starting point for us to look at these numbers. Pat, could you flip to the LER, and I'll kind of quickly go per school. It's just a little bit easier to kind of see it per school if we can do it that way.
Sure, there you go.
Yep. So yeah, we've talked about redoing gym floors and getting those in place. There's a hold number for the replacement of the gym floors is one of the big items. Really, the only big item that we've put in there for LER for next year's budget. Most of the other things are just smaller items. There is one piece in there for some paving repairs. That is something that's in there for this year, and just some annual inspection pieces in there. So LER is not too bad. Really just the gym floor piece that's in there for the repair. And that's something we had looked at last year, and we decided to push it out to this year. So it's not in terrible shape, but it does need to be looked at and addressed. If you want to flip to Riverview, again, Riverview, the same thing. We have the gym floor repair for Riverview in there. Again, some parking lot paving, patching that's in there. If you see years out, there are numbers for paving on each one of these schools. Those are the numbers there again as holders in there for really something we need to look at paving. That's where we've looked at potentially doing if we wanted to move forward with a bond. But what I did is I did work those numbers into the capital improvements, so they're out there as placeholders. Future, if we end up not doing a bond, it's definitely something we will have to look at in the future, for sure. Again, LER. I mean, Riverview has a couple small other just floor replacements in there that we need to address, in a couple bathrooms. We've been trying to move through and redo flooring in most of the schools and just keep them updated in most of the schools. Again, pretty much is it for Riverview. If we want to move over to Pittston. The big piece at Pittston, we do have if you want to scroll down a little bit, we have one roof section that needs replacing. Genie Roofing does all of our roofing PM work, and they do audits on all the roofing. And Pittston has one section that needs to be replaced, scheduled for next year. Again, as you can see further out, there are other sections that need to be replaced. Instead of doing them all at once, we try to stage it out so the price tag's not as large. Pittston next year has one section to be replaced in Pittston. If we want to move on, Pat, to Helen Thompson. Helen Thompson, we've started on the siding replacement out there. Last year before, we did a section of the gym. Last year, we did a large portion of the back of the school. Next year's would be the first portion of the front portion of the school, which is the gym entrance area, kind of the courtyard where the gym entrance is. That section would be needing to be replaced. There are some windows also that are leaking on that side, so that would be included in that siding trim replacement piece that's right there. So that's one of the big ticket items out there. The other piece is the gym roof. On the gym, the parking lot side are shingles. That's the last section of the roof that has not been replaced over the years. The building was built in '96, so it's in need of being replaced. That's the last section on that roof that needs to be addressed. And again, HVAC system, we keep continuing on replacing, trying to replace 3 units a year. There are 43 units in the building, so it's going to take us a while if we keep just doing 3 a year. So, but I wanted to make sure we have money in there. We can do 3 a year at that cost. Pretty much that's what it equals out. That is it for Helen Thompson. The middle school. Over at the middle school, one of the things that we again did have in there last year, we tried to put in budget, was a second staff bathroom to renovate a area to be able to put a second floor staff bathroom. Right now, the staff has to either use the student bathrooms or come all the way downstairs to the main office area of the building to use a bathroom. So this would be to renovate an area to be able to put a second floor bathroom for staff at the middle school. Again, that's something we wanted to make sure we put in there. The big ticket item at the middle school is, if you want to scroll down, Pat, is the a roof section that is slated for replacement. It's a large ticket item, but it is slated for replacement. We haven't had many problems in that section of the building, but our worry always is if we keep pushing them out, we get too far behind on roof issues, and that just causes a lot more cost for us later down the road. So that is a big ticket item at the middle school.
Flat rubber roof?
It is. It's a rubber roof over there, so it's not shingles, but is rubberized roofing. What we do to eliminate the need to keep replacing them, we do a restorations, which at some of the schools you'll notice on the spreadsheet that we just do a restoration instead of complete repair. But this section has already been restored once, and so it is due and scheduled for a complete removal and replacement, unfortunately. Yep.
Is that a not to exceed price, or is that?
Yeah, right. They do a really good job. The roofs we did last year at the high school came in approximately 15 or so under budget, 15,000 under budget. So that it won't exceed that $100,000 limit. They're really good at getting everything under budget. So I want to make sure that we don't run into a problem having to replace some of the boards under the roof if it is wet. The other items there, we do have some classroom furniture scheduled for replacement still. We were able to do some science tables this year at the look at doing some science tables this year at the middle school, and again we need to do some more next year. And also library furniture. We just finished up at the high school doing the library replacement furniture over there, and we started this year at the middle school, and we want to continue that on. It's probably about a 3-year process to get all of the furniture replaced and new tables and chairs. They're pretty much from back in the 70s. There's a bit of a retro style over there, so we need to really look at replacing that furniture there. Yep. That is it for the middle school. If you want to move on to the high school. High school, again, last year, one of the things we looked at was replacing the cafeteria floor. It's one of the last pieces of asbestos floor that's still there. So really we need to get it abated. There are sections that are coming up on the floor. So that's the cost to abate the asbestos flooring and to put down new quartz tile in the cafeteria. And the quartz tile is a less maintenance, so we won't have to do floor finish or anything like that. Again, we had that in last year's budget and it's moved over to this year. Continuing on with the C-wing panel installations is something we've done over the years. You'll see that continuing out. Roofing, we don't have a section of roofing that needs to be replaced this year. We did that. Again, we did that last year, so we are a couple more years out before we need to do any more there. Just PM work on the heat pumps. And we do have just a little bit of money in there for some furniture at the very end of the spreadsheet. Again, it's just enough to really replace broken desks and chairs. We try to keep a little bit of a placeholder in there just to keep replacing some of the old components that are there. And again, like I said, this year we had just finished up the library furniture section, so that's done for this year. Superintendent's office, if you want to move to the next tab, doesn't have much there for this year. We did have something, we had looked at some boardroom furniture at one point in time. So that is something that I did put something in there, but it's something that we definitely want to keep on the books to know that it should still be slated to at least be looked at for replacement at some point in time. So we weren't able to do it this year. Next, transportation office. We're pretty easy over there. We don't seem to have a lot, so we're doing pretty good. We're doing pretty good, and that's really it. The next couple tabs are just breaks it down a little bit differently as far as looking at the 5-year capital improvement plan as a total. It just breaks each section down for each of the schools to kind of get an idea over the next 5 years where all the money has to be spent. As you can see, I mean, it is a significant amount of money, but we do have some significant needs in the district that will, if not this year, in the near future, need to be addressed and repaired. So I know budget is not looking favorable potentially this year, maybe a little bit more favorable than it was, but we definitely have some needs out there that need to be addressed. That's it.
Thank you, Gabe. Nice job. Maybe there'll be like some kind of a magical boardroom fire sale when we all get to meet in person again, and it'll be like that happy occasion to, I mean, that furniture's been in there since before I was on the board, and that's 20 plus years ago. So.
Right. When we all come back, it's going to feel like it's new furniture. So we haven't seen it in so long.
That's one way to look at it. I love it. Perfect. Okay. Yep. Next is CARES Act funds.
Yes, we thought that we would give you an update on two fronts. One, I'm going to ask Andrea if she would give an update on the invoicing aspect of it, how that's going. And then I would turn to Gabe and to Terry to provide you an update on the big ticket items, on the progress being made, purchasing the items that were approved, and installing the many items that were also approved, keeping in mind that the deadline to have all of that work done is December 30th, which is just 2 short weeks away. So Andrea, maybe if you don't mind, would you kick us off?
So all of the invoicing through the month of November has been sent to the state. Between the CRF1 and the CRF2, it's about $1.5 million. Paying on the state side has been extremely slow, except for the dependent care or the daycare, the day programming. Their turnaround is extremely quick, but we are just a pass through for those funds. So it's not monies that we've actually put expended from the district, but rather it's just going to the Boys and Girls Club. So to date, we've received, of the $1.5 million that we've invoiced, we've received about $90,000. We just received $54,000 on Monday. It's been challenging. We have a lot left to invoice. There are a lot of projects going on. We are concerned that with having all the projects done and ensuring that we have all of the invoices, it's going to be very challenging for our office to try to connect with people during the week of Christmas. Those invoices have to be paid in our office on December 30th. While we have until March to request reimbursement, I intend to have that done within the first week of January. I just want it to be over. So we are trying to follow up with vendors to ensure that we have invoices, to find out what we haven't received, to reach out to building administrators to see what they're still expecting so that we can make use of everything that hasn't been billed. I'm not sure what else you'd like me to cover, Pat.
No, I think that's it. I just wanted everyone to have an overview. As a reminder, the first CRF1 grant provided us 1.6 million, and CRF2 was 1.7 million. So we are talking about a lot of money that we've tied up as a district. And so it's really important that we begin to receive our reimbursements through the Department of Education or from the state, because it's going to become a cash flow issue for our district.
If we didn't have 2 years of carry forward, we would be asking for a loan, a revenue anticipation loan, to get us by, just to make our payrolls. It just so happens that this December we have 3 payrolls in a month, which we typically never do. Our payrolls are about $500,000. So as you can see, it doesn't take long for us to eat through a couple of $1 million. The state is actually trying to get our subsidy to us earlier. So they're trying. It's manpower on their end. They're really struggling, and I feel bad. I know that we probably send them for each invoice about 100 to 200 pieces of paper, and they're getting this from every school district. So I can't imagine, for every month. So I can't imagine being on the receiving end of that. It's basically all we are doing. So while I'm very happy to get the money, I will be very happy when this project is tied up.
But, to the credit of the Department of Education, they've been responsive. They've heard from the school districts that we need them to turn around the approvals faster than what they were doing. So they started off with one person on staff who was processing everything, which is crazy. Like, the person could actually manage that caseload, that workload. And last time I heard from the deputy commissioner, he informed us that they had upwards of 20 staff members now working on it. So.
And the problem isn't really the states, it's really because it's federal money. And with federal money, there are so many hoops to jump through. For every staff member who's being paid out of federal monies, they have to sign forms that saying that they're working on projects that are allowed under the coronavirus grant. And it's just a lot of paperwork. The state wants to make sure that when the feds go and audit the state, that they have everything and that they're in compliance. So it's huge on their end. So kudos to them.
Absolutely.
Doing it all alone. She now has 19 sons helping her. Anything else? Future agenda items?
Well, I don't think on that. So if no one has any questions on the invoicing, I would ask either, why don't we start with Terry, since Gabe has already went. Terry, if you could kind of give us an update on the technology that we've purchased and how that's installation is going.
That sounds great. Thank you. The building wiring, the middle school, the high school, LER, Riverview, and the central office is complete. Of course, there's always some tweaking that needs to be done, maybe a little bit of changing out of, checking a switch to make sure that the port is live, but the wiring is done in there. Pittston, Randolph is in progress right now, and Helen Thompson will also be scheduled to be wired this week. So the wiring is going very well. Wireless networking, we have AirTing devices installed in every location that has a mounted projector. Many need to be connected to the switches, so we're waiting for the wiring to actually be able to connect with the wire on both ends so that teachers and students can connect to the projectors using wireless access. Our phone systems are, I think we're a little bit ahead of what we thought we would be at this point, thanks to Central Maine Communication. The middle school, the high school, LER, and Riverview are online. Installation next at Pittston and the central office, and Helen Thompson and the transportation office will be done, Ed thinks, by this weekend or maybe early this next coming week. They're still tweaking. There are some phones that, didn't connect. And so we need to go back and check those phones, or, there might not be plugged in where the teacher wants them, but the major components are up and running. And so that's awesome. The whiteboards, we had 77 whiteboards. We've had quite a few people helping us. We're down to 3 to be installed. After it's all said and done, we've taken some of the whiteboards that weren't in great shape, and we'll move those to like conference rooms or something like that. But the new ones are in the classrooms except for 3, which is great. LCD projectors, the high school has 12 left. 4 will be mounted tomorrow, leaving it left with 8. James Risch and Greg Gorham have really hustled on those. James finished the middle school completely tonight, so all those projectors are up. LER is partially complete. Most rooms have a mounted projector. It might not be the new one, but they do have a mounted projector. I know that we have 2 rooms that still need the projector. Pittston Randolph, 2 rooms left to complete. Riverview, they are installed and they are being adjusted. We do have some TVs and some equipment to take down, but making really good progress at Pittston Randolph. Riverview, same thing. Helen Thompson, partially complete. Most rooms have either a mounted LCD or a TV. That will be, we'll have to have a big push out at Helen Thompson to get it done. Teacher laptops. The high school, the middle school, LER, Riverview, and Helen Thompson have their teacher laptops. Some people haven't picked them from the high school, but they are there waiting for them when they want them. Pittston Randolph is scheduled to be handed out tomorrow. Oops, Helen Thompson is also not complete. That's also scheduled to be passed out this week. Central office staff comes last. So after all those teachers get their laptops, the superintendent's office and the central office staff get their laptops. Document cameras, classroom teachers have them from the CRF1. Additional requests were made from a lot of ed techs and some of the teachers that were hired after the school year began. So CRF2 monies, we've ordered those, they're in. We need to decide who's going to get them. We had a much bigger demand than we expected from the ed techs for the document cameras. Special ed iPads, going to be used for testing. Those are ordered, but they are not in yet. The camera systems, we are a little bit behind on those. We have 6 camera systems to put in. They're scheduled for December 22nd and 23rd. And so that will be the server part. We'll connect to the cameras we have, and we'll put the other ones up as we go. We have 2 ADS servers that are going to be installed into the superintendent's office. We're going to get those configured on the 22nd and 23rd, and then we'll connect ADS as soon as Andrea can take a break long enough for us to connect ADS to them. Business office laptops, we have laptops in case we go red. Those will be also done hopefully on the 22nd and 23rd in between server installs. Elementary Chromebooks, we're a little bit behind on those. Our grade 3s are ready to deploy. Our grade 4 and 5, we need to configure those and get those ready to put out into the buildings. Questions?
You're amazing. Amazing. Way to go.
I have a great team.
Wow. The wiring alone is like, I think, how the heck? Wow. Terry, thank you so much. Wow. You guys do so much.
It's like I said, we have a really great group.
I know you do. I know, yes. We have a really great group. We are very fortunate to have such hardworking individuals.
We do have some IT staff who are working about 40 hours of overtime each week to make this happen. So they are remarkable. And I know Terry is the company that we've hired to do some of this work. They're also helping with the installation of some of the wiring to make sure that that's happening, because it's just otherwise it would be too much for our small staff to do completely on their own.
Right. I was wondering that. I was thinking, how in the world, because we don't have a large staff. So
Yeah.
You know, we've even had custodians that have pitched in and worked to help us put up whiteboards.
that's good.
That's how much help we've had.
That's great. I'm happy to hear that. Nice. Great
Thank
staff.
you, Terry. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
And Gabe, can you give an update, especially on the ventilation? You know, I think that there are people who are still concerned that it's being in the buildings are not safe unless there are windows open. And just if you can kind of fill us in on all that you've done to make sure that in person in our schools is a safe place for staff and students.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. So the one thing that is done at all the schools, the isolation rooms are complete. They are done. They have the pressure sensors at the door, so they sense the pressure from the hall into the room. So it's always keeping a negative pressure in there. So if anybody does need to be isolated, those rooms are available at each of the school facilities. To put student, staff, anybody that needs to be isolated into it. And none of that air that's in that room is being brought into the remainder of the building that's there. It's ventilated out to the atmosphere. So that project's been complete for quite some time. The survey that was done through Siemens at the very beginning of the school year, there were a short list of deficiencies that we needed to go through. It didn't affect our ventilation system as a whole for the buildings. It actually, any of the deficiencies that were in there, we've worked through and are just completing all of those items that were on that list. Most of them were very minimal little things. And some of them had nothing to do with ventilation, but they were just a heating actuator that would affect our heating for the wintertime, that sort of thing. So those items are being completed and finished. That section, that's being done. The O2 Prime system that we had started for the first section of the school for the elementary schools, that's been completed for a while now, about 3 weeks. The second phase of the system was started a week ago. That phase was the middle school, high school, and Helen Thompson were the last 3 schools to be needing to be completed. The middle school is done. They started at the high school today. Should be finishing there either tomorrow or they're going to move to Helen Thompson. So that way there's nobody in the building tomorrow, so they can hopefully complete that building in one day. And then they'll come back Thursday, Friday, and finish up the high school. So they're hoping at the end of this week to be completed at all of our schools, the O2 Prime system. And that's the ventilation system where it's the ionization system that goes into the ductwork to help with cleaning the air to kill not just COVID-19, but any the flu, cold, any sort of bacteria, viruses. It helps with pollen, all those items that'll help not just now, but in the future. It'll help us out. We actually had a teacher at the Helen Thompson school had one of the units hooked up in her classroom, not the O2 Prime system, but one that she had bought as an ionization unit. And we had to go through the buildings before they put the systems in to do pre-testing to see how many ions were in the air at the time. And that classroom had over double the amount of ions in the room cleaning the air than any of the other building that did not have the system hooked up. So the system that she had in there was already working to clean the air. And it's a small standalone purifier, which is what we would be doing, but as a building as a whole. Once the systems are complete, they'll go through and do post-testing. And that way we'll be able to verify that the units are working, what the ion saturation is in the classrooms, to be able to know that it's going to work for us. So again, that system's almost complete. Hopefully the end of the week that'll be done. So again, talking about the windows needing to be open, the systems, the way the buildings are meant to work, they bring fresh air in, they exhaust stale air out. Talking to Siemens, you keep the windows open and it tends to short cycle the classroom. So it's bringing the air in and it's just sending the air straight out the classroom. It's not actually flushing the whole building out. So in a way, by keeping the buildings, your windows closed in the building, especially this time of year, the building's running the way it's meant to run. It brings in the fresh air, it exhausts the stale air out, and it keeps that cycle going. We've set everything so the dampers can never close more than 20%. So they'll never close all the way up. They're always open a minimum of 20% at all times. So we've extended the ventilation scheduling out. So normally the ventilation would turn off at night at a certain period of time. We've extended all those out. So it's constantly flushing the air out, even when staff is not in the building. So especially when staff would come in the mornings, the air exchange in the building has had a chance to exchange a couple times at night. So anything that might have been in the building is completely flushed out for the staff that comes in and students that come in the morning. We're doing everything we can. Of course, it's getting colder. This is the harder time of the year. We need to constantly monitor the heating units. We don't want them to freeze. That's always a possibility with bringing in more outdoor air, especially as it gets cold. That air coming in is cold. If it cools the coil down too much, then we'll have freeze ups. So it's a balancing act, especially when it gets really, really cold. I'm constantly monitoring everything, and I can do that remotely on my computer to be able to monitor the heating system at all the buildings. Other projects, are almost complete on our touchless faucets and toilet devices that we've installed. Again, that's being put into all the schools. Pittston is one of the last schools that needs to be completed. They were out at Helen Thompson today. They're almost complete out there. They've got a couple more devices in a couple of the other schools where they need to go in after hours because they need to turn all the water off to the school. So that's been a bit of a struggle trying to do some of this work because we can't turn all the water off at the schools because students and staff are still in session. So we've tried to fit it in on Wednesdays or after hours. So we're nearing the end of that phase of work to be done. So that's pretty much where we're at. We did receive a new district truck to be able to plow off areas for mass breaks. Phys ed, that's another big piece. That like to do phys ed outside as much as possible. So we're able to plow off areas with the new truck that we've received. Also in there was a couple tractors. Some of the fields we can't get to with the truck, so we have to use a tractor. So one of the tractors is ready for us. We're waiting on the other one to be ready. As soon as it is, we're going to pick it up. So Andrea, I promise I will have the invoicing and the tractor before December 30th. Yeah, I think that's it.
Thank you, Gabe.
Well
So
done.
that's what we have. Everyone's been busy. You're muted, Becky.
And you make it look so seamless and easy.
We've just been living and breathing COVID
Yeah.
at all different levels. This is all we deal with. Virtually nothing else. So
Well, thank you. Thank you for keeping us safe, for doing all the things that we need to have done, and what an opportunity it's been for us to upgrade systems throughout the district. That's a great thing for us, turning a tragedy into a good thing.
So that's all we have for an agenda tonight, Becky.
Future items that we should talk about.
Well, probably in January, we should talk about the budget. I'm not sure if we will have the status quo budget or not. We'll have to see. given all that's going on, but we will be able to give you an update on the budget process, and hopefully we'll be able to kind of close out the CRF funding and just confirm that we've done everything that we've needed to do, and we'll be able to update you on the receipts that we've received from the state for the invoicing that's being done out of the business office.
I'm also hoping that we have the ED 279 with so many new board members. I would like to welcome all of our new board members so that we go through how the state funds us so that they have a better understanding of how funds are allocated to districts. It will give us a chance to compare this year's funding to last year's to see where we increased and decreased, and to move our conversation from there.
Yeah, I mean, usually that doesn't actually come out until February. I think it's required February 1st. So it would be wonderful if it were here prior to, but if that's not an agenda, if it's not ready to place on the agenda for January, let's definitely do that in February.
For sure.
I think that's a great idea, Andrea.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. Yep. All right.
Great.
Well, I guess we can adjourn.
Awesome.
I know it'll
Thank
make
you.
sad.
Darn.
Yeah, we're
Thank you.
tired.
Great job.
Good night.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, everyone.
Everyone,
All
thank
right.
you.
Thank you.
Take
Bye.
care.
Bye. Thank you.